So we think about what it looks like to just create a welcoming library and how we kind of create like that vibe that we want not only our kids to feel, but we want our teachers or our families and community to feel too. And I think too, like when you're thinking about and we're talking about this question, like if there's any like special activities that you do or anything that you do to really like kick off, you can share that too. So, who would like to start?
I'll
I
start.
can. Oh, sorry.
Oh, so I'm going to start from a perspective as a coordinator. So when we hire new librarians, part of the hiring process for just all new to district people is to spend some time, actually a day on like learning environments. And so we really focus on what the goals are, the purpose. But for librarians, I share information about um, what the purpose is, the intentions you want to, what kind of feeling do you want to create. It talks about, furniture arrangement, but it also even talks about the person in the room and, the persona, greeting kids at the door, always saying hello, obviously not hovering too much, but just, we also talk about the signage. And so it's more encompassing and then offering some time for them to just be reflective. And then, during my training, I actually go to different libraries on purpose and make them travel so that they can see other places and spaces and be inspired. So,
Very good.
Just to add to what Becky was sharing, I think our spaces are a sensory experience. So for me, adopting this new space that I was in, I went several weeks before my contract day to see the space, see the lay of the land, see what I have, what I was needing. And one thing that was so important to me is their sensory experience. What do they see? What do they smell? What do they feel? So those were the first things that I tackled was organizing, cleaning, creating those organized spots, spots to study, spots to relax, spots for makerspace. So those were definitely designated spaces that I made sure were defined with the signage. But yeah, even music can really create a vibe or a mood that you want for your kids to experience when they come into this space. So yeah, it's kind of like sensory overload in a positive way. You really want to hit all those aspects because it really does create that uh, bubble of safety that you want your kids to feel when they walk in those doors.
I love that.
That's funny, Celeste, that you said smells good because I had that on my list. Everybody said
Yeah,
smells so good in here. So
all my kiddos say that. Yeah.
I had smells good, and I have bright colors in my library, but I thought kind of just staying up on the trends, being in a middle school, I try to hit those trends that are really popular with them. We've got some signs that say, "Yo, bro, it's kind of sus that you even brought your library book back." So just kind of taking what they find is interesting, and when they see it in the library, it's now a cool preppy place. Preppy is a good thing now. That they want to come and hang out. And I know last year, the Olympics was a big deal. So we had Snoop Dogg hiding around the shelves, and you had to find Snoop. And so just kind of making it things that they know they're interested in and they feel valued when they come in.
For me, it's about the vibe and it's also about what we're able to provide. So I consider myself the fun aunt of the school in life as an art. So I want my kids to know that this is their place and it's not something that it's not a place where there are, there's no grades. They're able to just kind of be themselves and experience things and figure out who they are. And it's also kind of the community center of the school. So I like to figure out kind of what are the needs of that year. I always have stocked what I call my emergency supply station. And I have menstrual products and mini deodorants and those individually wrapped face wipes, because you never know what anybody's going through. Like I've had teachers that have come in and been like, oh my gosh, I forgot my deodorant this morning. I'm like, gotcha, girl. And then this year, our school lost our social worker and we haven't been able to replace that person. So I've created what I'm calling a refresh and recharge station, and have let all of the teachers know, like this isn't something that we're going to have out for library time. But if you see a kid that just needs a minute, it's not somebody who's already like ripping the posters off the walls. Like that's not what this is for. But if you see a kid who just needs a recharge, who just needs, a couple of minutes, I have a sign, I have a weighted stuffed animal, I've got some like fidget toys, some, healing. I've got a little Buddha that glows for breathing. And I'm letting the kids know, okay, we're going to set a timer, like take 5-10 minutes, and then, we'll splash our face and go back to class. And I have not had any kids overusing or manipulating or doing anything with these stations. They take what they need. They really do respect it. They take what they need, and then they get back to class. And it's really been super helpful for the kids to know that there's no stigma. They don't even have to say anything. They know they can go straight to the station, take care of their business. They wave hi, and then they go back. So they know that they are taken care of in all capacities, and it smells good.
I love that.
And just to bring it full circle, like when my students walk into the library, they're going to know, like, we love to read in this school. There are going to be lots of displays, with a variety of books where they are going to recognize stories that, where the characters look like them or what have you. When I was a librarian, we had a big author visit program, and I hosted, like, over the course of time, like 70 plus authors. That was just a big deal for us at our school. So I had my authors for the year lined up. The students saw a big poster on the wall of who's coming and when they're coming, so we could get excited, about those books and encourage students to go ahead and read and kind of get to know these authors. I wanted the book club lists picked and ready to go and on display. It's just like, get excited, because we've got lots of reading adventures ahead this year.
I love that. I know for me this year, because we're going through some building changes at our school and lots of noise and activity that's just going on, we've just been focusing a lot on reading, like you said, Lindsay, and a lot on kind of, bringing just that joy of what we can do, because we're sharing our space with STEM and we've lost some of our space because of the building already. And so we're going to be kind of in survival mode too. And so one new thing that I'm doing this year is we got another library cart and we're making a bookmobile to go around to the classrooms, because we're going to have to visit a lot, because we don't have a lot of time because we're going through this change. And so just bringing book joy in any way that we can, and celebrating, just us as readers, working a lot with our public librarian in our public library, which we're really excited about. And that's not something new, but really stepping that up to this year, because the public library is 2 blocks away. So we'll be able to use their space too. So we're excited about that. When we've talked a lot about like our kids and what that means to them and how they feel, but we also think about like the strategies that we have just for building those strong instructional partners with our teachers from the start of the year. So let's talk about that for a little bit.
So I'll start. I did a library orientation at the beginning of the year, talked to my teachers about library things, and definitely brought up that we want to continue with our side quests. We call them side quests. We have assigned days for English classes to come in for library class, but we want some more side quests where we go into science classes or social studies classes, come in and collaborate a project. So I made a fun little sticker just using Canva. So when they do a side quest with the library, the teachers get a sticker. I might even have one over here. Um, and so it's just something that makes them want to collaborate too. So I think just opening that door for that collaboration and making it fun and giving them examples from the years prior that some of our teachers didn't even know we did. So we're on side quests over here.
That's so fun.
One of the things I did with some teachers, um, they know that I will write grants like all the time. So I have a 5th grade teacher that really wanted to delve into Native American different tribes, and so I wrote a huge grant, and so now this year we have all the supplies, we have all the books, and they're like, it's going to be quite the thing where the kids can not only do their research projects, but they'll make things like different like jewelry and the housing and all that stuff. So that's one thing to do. And then at the beginning of the year, I send out a forms, a survey, and I always ask teachers, do you know about this? Do you know about this? Do you know about this? And so it gets them thinking, oh yeah, and then I'll ask them, what's the best way for me to meet your needs? Do you want a little how-to video? Do you want to come in and do one-on-one? Do you want small group? I'll ask them what's going to serve them best. And then I'm constantly looking for ways to help make their life easier. So for instance, we do book battles, grade level book battles. And so I made each grade level a little chart that the kids can put in their agenda so they can track their progress towards reading their 5 books for book battles. So it's just all those things that they know that they can come to me and I will, make it happen. And I think that's a really great thing if they know that you're the person to go to make something happen.
Yeah, that is great.
Crystal, I am 100% stealing your sticker idea. I will credit, but that is the coolest thing because, kids love stickers and we love stickers. So that is super fun. I do a similar thing. I will just straight up go to teachers and, just ask them. I was not able to do an orientation for my staff, which I'm very jealous of that you were able to do that. But yeah, I go in, I'm like, hey, what are you working on? How can I help you? Or if I discover a new ed tech tool or something like, hey, I think this would be really great for your kids. We're going to do, we have a dual language program and they do a big Hispanic Heritage Month research project, but they do, the old science fair boards. So I was like, cool, what if they create podcasts and they can use Canva or Adobe podcasts? And so that's what something that we're going to work on. I also do the potty PDs. So yeah, I think we are all familiar. Mine is called the roll call. And so having, just tech tips and, memes, and I do upcoming events in the library and book recommendations and all sorts of stuff. Because every moment is a learning opportunity. Get them where they can't run away.
I love it.
Love on your new staff. Your new staff needs so much help and support. They really, they've got to eat this elephant. And so you can really be somebody that is a go-to for them. Now, I will tell you this, but keep in mind, it took me a long time to get to this place in my life and career. But I really like to have my stuff together before school started. My plans, my calendar, all of my things, my ducks in a row, because I knew the first week back, I was going to be asked for everything and there would not be time for me to do my things. And then I didn't want to be doing them at night and kind of under duress. So I did give up some summertime. That was something I did for me, for my mental health, to be ready for the school year. But it did give me time during that first week back to check on new staff, to have conversations like Rachel mentioned about kind of what are you excited about doing this year? How can I support you? But I also came prepared to those conversations because I'd gone through the curriculum and kind of listed out important topics and projects that I knew were coming up. That way I could say, oh, you know, in third quarter, you're going to be doing this. And, you know, here's how I can help, just to give them some examples. Because sometimes, you know, they want to work with you, but they may not know exactly what that looks like.
So true.
Lindsay's story about doing that in advance makes me just think about there's always so many things that are coming at librarians. And so kind of taking control of that in advance allows you to be kind of in the moment. And then, like you said, go check on teachers and that sort of thing too. One of the things we talk a lot about as librarians is I always encourage my librarians to really like listen for the opportunities, because I don't think sometimes teachers even know. I think some teachers know certain things, and there's certain things that they're going to do, like they'll all come to an orientation, that sort of thing too. But sometimes they don't know the things that we can do for them, and so connecting with an instructional coach, if you're fortunate enough to have one, or the dean of instruction, somebody who's got a pulse of what's happening, those department heads, and being in those meetings, especially at secondary, then they'll say like, oh, you know, you need to talk to the librarian because she can do da 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 da. That's where, like, especially when you've got a diverse team of like new, but you've got people there that have been there a while, they'll help them to see the possibilities of what the librarian can do to help be a partner, an instructional partner, but also kind of carry that load, because there's so much to do, and we can help in so many ways.
And just to add to that, the good tried and true little menu of services that we provide. I had an opportunity to meet my staff, introduce myself, and I made sure that that was the first thing that I issued out to them, and just took time, even if it was, I think it was what, 10 minutes, just to share with them, you know, my years of experience, that I too used to be in the classroom. I was a reading teacher. Sometimes they have no knowledge of that you had to be a teacher prior to becoming a librarian. So just sharing those, you know, important tidbits of information to sell yourself and show them what you're capable of doing. And so because of that, I had several teachers come in wanting to collab, wanting me to share with them some tech tools and projects that they would like to work on with their kids. So that was a great segue into building rapport with the teachers, showcasing what we are able to do and how we're able to assist them. So yeah, and even if you don't get an opportunity at a staff meeting, grabbing them in the hallway or going to the teacher's lounge.
I
Those
love
little things matter. Yeah.
all those little things. I know the menu is something too that our teachers like really get used to getting, and they're always wondering what they're going to get, you know, when we go back to school. This year I did bracelets and they say together VM, again because of kind of all that we're going through together at school this year. And so that will kind of be our theme this year. But one of my favorite tips is when we go back to school and we have all our meetings, I always have all the teachers add me to their Google Classrooms, because I can get a little glimpse into what's going on. And oftentimes I don't even have to open up the email. I just see it in the subject line, you know, what they're doing. And then I can, just like you said, Rachel, like I just show up most times and ask what they need, or I've worked with them for so long that I know what's coming up, like Lindsay said, at certain times of the year. But just joining their Google Classrooms at the beginning of the year is a really great way to just not only see what they're doing, but also to share resources too. So a great way to get to our kids in lots of different ways. I love that. So one of our favorite things, we're all librarians, is talking about reading, of course. And so I would love to know how you guys are building a culture of reading in your school this year. Rachel, you have the reading shirt on. You start.
Betrayed by the shirt. I'm actually starting Beanstack this year. So that is the reading tracking app. And I'm not gonna lie, part of it was from seeing all of my librarian friends on social media and all the fun parties and incentives and stuff that they're doing. I was like, oh man, I want to do that. Or like, I know kids that would love to do that. I'm lucky that we have a really good culture of reading. I have a lot of really supportive teachers, and the kids are super excited about books. And, they have already been, coming in even before their assigned library day. Their teachers are sending them down because they want the kids to get books and the kids want to get books. So I'm really excited to have an incentivization as a member of the Book It generation. I very much, and the AR generation, I very much understand external validation when it comes to my life. So, if I could get a personal pan pizza for everything that I do. So I'm super excited to do that. I also have some book clubs. Lindsay mentioned that she has author visits. And so I've scheduled some author visits throughout the year, and I'm having our book clubs read those books so that we'll be able to talk with the authors and have a little bit more insight. So I'm just super excited to see what these programs bring, and more of the talks and the conversations that we can have. Yeah, it's going to be really fun.
I love that. Sounds like fun.
We're kind of taking doing something like that, but maybe less digital. We have reading logs. We're not going to call them just a log. You're not just logging when you finish a book. It's more of a conversation. We call them read receipts. So your teachers can hop in your DMs, on your read receipts. So it's just a place for you or teachers to be like, hey, you've been reading Dog Man for 2 weeks. What's going on? Or like, hey, we discussed about maybe trying a new book. So it's more of like a log for any teacher in the school and the student to use. So they're going in their red folders, which are the big take home folders here. They're going to be stapled in there. We're going to have a quiet dear time in the library where myself, my assistant, and the English teacher will walk around and look at those. But we're encouraging all teachers to utilize that. And I even made poster size of the exact same reading logs and laminate them for teachers to put outside their classrooms. So we're doing a big Read 15 with all of our secondary schools, all the middle school, junior high, and high school. The goal is to read 15 books by the end of the year. We're working on getting t-shirts. And so the reading logs will just help us keep track of students, what they're reading and what they don't like and what they do like, and not holding on to the same library book for 2 months because they have to have a book in their backpack.
That sounds perfect.
That sounds a lot like the kind of a good blend between the Donnell and Miller book challenge and Perennial Rip as well. And we did something similar at my school, and just kind of those open conversations with students. Like every time I had library day, or even when a class was just in like on a side quest sort of situation, it was always an opportunity to talk about books. I mean, we always start with book talks, no matter what. I don't care if we're talking about what science databases you're going to use for this, that, or the other. But we also just made a point. I really tried to talk with the teachers and model this, just modeling your reading life, because the kids think like, one of their favorite things to say was, oh, Miss Kimmery, have you read all the books in the library? Ha ha. And it's like, I haven't. What do you think I am? And, when I would say things like, I really tried that book. I tried to read it like 3 times and I just couldn't do it. Just being real with them. My middle schoolers just responded well, just a real talk about reading. Because sometimes they think, just because I'm excited about it, that they need to be too, but it's okay if you aren't. We'll get there, at some point. But also just put my district hat on. We at the district level sponsor some things, just district wide, like Picture Book Month in November for elementary. We provide materials to support with that. We do a book madness in the spring for March Madness. So just some ways that we can also help librarians with some plug and play type resources.
I'm going to kind of chime in after Lindsay about, we have the same kind of conversations in my district about, just being honest about, do you know when if you read at least 20 minutes a day, the impacts it will have on your vocabulary, how it will grow you, that kind of thing. But then also the conversations with families and helping them to understand, how that modeling is so key. We actually have a reading wellness flyer that we as a district put up and shared. We did it collaboratively with our language arts, but it's something that we all, as just curriculum people, kind of key in on and share with our families, because I think when we're all kind of going in the same direction, then we know what we want, what we want to see. And so we model a lot. We use that as a way not only to just post in our libraries and of course across the campuses, but also tells everybody like what our belief system is around like literacy and reading, and how it's beyond like a test, because we know we have to take a test, but what if you take that time, what the benefits it would have. And then I think finally, one of the things that I think that I'm most proud of is the last 3 years. Um, I have partnered with other curriculum department heads, and we have provided an annual professional learning session, a whole day. It's called a Lit Love Conference. And so we bring in, like 1 year we brought in John Shu, 1 year we brought in Dogwood Miller, we brought in Cornelius Minor. And so we bring in people, and it's just focused around like, how do we build that culture of reading? And so there's sessions that teachers share the things that they do. We have book talk sessions for teachers to hear about other books. We give away ARCs and bookmarks and things from different publishers. And it's just this whole day of just reading joy. We have like sponsors that bring a lunch, that pay for lunches for teachers. And so we have about 500 teachers that come, giving up a day in their summer to just do that. And so it's been really successful, because again, we know that like we should be leading that and championing that. And so if we're not modeling that for teachers, like putting those signs outside of our door, I've just read blah blah blah, whatever, right? That's huge for kids. And so how can we, those opportunities are important to not forget.
No, I love that. I know. And one thing that we're thinking a lot about this year too is the collaboration that we're doing with our teachers, and really, because I work in a school with preschool to 12th grade kids. And so I'm working with our 4-year-olds all the way to our kids that are ready to like launch. And so one thing that we're doing this year, I even have it, it has some scratch on it, but this is pretty good copy, but it's a reader bingo, and it's not just for our individual readers. Each class is going to get one, and they're going to be making goals together, and that's going to be a new thing. And so things like, and intentionally doing it, like we do a lot of reading programs, and we have some teachers who do it every month and some teachers that they don't participate. And so really trying to incentivize those like teachers, but also like get their kids excited, and tell the teachers like, we have to do this, invite one of the football players to read. Let's go to the public library and get a book. Let's have Mrs. Miller come in and do a lesson. And so we're really excited about that, and giving some, kind of putting it back to on the teachers to help us from the library really grow that culture of reading even more. And so I'm anxious. We kick that off tomorrow, so I'm really excited. I get a little time during our district PD, hopefully. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is digital tools that we use, or it could be like a platform too. Maybe there's something great, like a new platform or database that you're using, or great new digital tool. We all like using technology. I would love to hear if there is something that you're really excited about, something that's new, or maybe a project that you're working on. There's so many different things out there now. One that I'm excited about, I'll just start, is We Will Write. I learned about this last spring, and it's created by the creators of Kahoot. And so has anybody used it in this room? You guys, it's so cool, like amazing. I have never seen kids so excited about writing in my life. And they're given a prompt, and it is generated, like the prompts are so cool. Like one of the prompts I saw one day in a 4th grade class was there's a fire in your apartment and your cat is on the chair, trapped on the chair. Like, what do you do? And so all the kids are on their Chromebooks, writing for like 3 minutes. Then they vote. It's all anonymous. And from those, then there's like a certain number, say it's like 5. Then all the kids write from those prompts that are chosen, and they continue to do that. And our kids, not only were they so excited about writing, but I love that they were practicing their keyboarding skills and they were so engaged in what they were doing. The earliest age that we used it for was our third graders. But then our schoolers were hooked, and we haven't used it yet with our high schoolers, but I am sure that we will. And it's just so cool. So I'm super excited about bringing that to even more kids and teachers. And our teachers, I heard several of them say that it was the coolest thing that we've used last year. So I'm excited to continue to use that. So we will write.
I'll piggyback off of you, but when I presented at the beginning of the year, I was like, of course I'm going to sneak in a tech tool. So I actually showed them We Will Write, and there's a teacher, like an example. So if you want to teach your teachers about this, it shows you what your screen looks like and what students look like. So it's pretty cool. It's very easy to show the teachers what the tool is too.
Very intuitive.
Mhm. I'll go. We used this at the end of last year and loved it, and we're going to use more. But it's Notebook LM, and so it creates AI podcasts with whatever prompt you've put in, or you can even put in like documents. So what we did is we invited our science classes in notebooklm.google.com. We uploaded their actual science test they had coming up. They were getting at the end of a unit. So we put the science test in, the real test, and don't give us specific questions or answers from the test, use the content only, and create a podcast. And so it has a male voice and a female voice, and they talk to each other. They're like, oh my gosh, we're going to talk about chemical changes today. Yeah, chemical changes are so fun. Did you know that blah, blah, blah? And it has a beta version even where students can interact. So they loved, I had like a little think sheet. They were coming up with questions. We would go pick who would get to go up to the mic, and they would click a button, and the host would say, oh, yes, we have a guest. And then our students asked a question. What makes a chemical change? And then the guests say, that's a great question. And then they answer it. So I got to teach students about what is a podcast and then also review their science topics. So if you haven't played on notebooklm.google.com, do that.
Love that one. Who else has something to share? Anything cool that you're using?
I definitely, being the new kid on campus, I am going to show my kids and teachers Adobe Express. It has a myriad of things that teachers and students can use to showcase their learning. And the new feature that I'm kind of gaga and awestruck about is their update in the web pages. So one way that I'm going to really push and promote for teachers and students to use it is as their digital portfolio. They can import the things that they've learned, add a reflection, and it's just a beautiful template. They have templates to choose from to showcase their learning throughout the course of the year, or maybe they're learning on a specific unit. They can share a live link to their webpage, or they can generate a QR code. And that would be so neat to have QR codes on display for parents to scan to see the work that their child did throughout the year. So I'm even using it, I'm going to use it as my newsletter for my library. So anyone and everyone can use it. So yeah, it's the web page features in Adobe Express. So super excited to share that with everyone.
Anybody else have anything to share?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned earlier. So I like to say that I can do all things through Canva, which strengthens me. I'm going to do podcasts with my students. So instead of writing their research, it's fifth and sixth grade. So we kind of touch along on research, but a lot of the times, getting them to write things is hard, getting them to kind of understand. So we're going to start with podcasting, and we're using Canva because that's they're able to record straight to it. They can record on their phone, well, at home, and because in Texas they can't have their phones at school anymore. Whoops. They won't use their phones, Greg Abbott, don't worry. They can upload straight to straight to Canva and create their logos. So that's what we're going to work on with their different research projects instead of, doing a PowerPoint or, like the poster board. I'm super excited about getting them into this and, getting them filling out and understanding, that they can create this too, that's what all podcasters do and YouTubers, like everybody who creates content has to prepare. And so that's one of the things that we're going to talk about is, the people that they emulate on YouTube and TikTok. I'm like, no, they write a script too. Like there's no such thing as improv. Trust me. But yeah, I'm super, super excited.
I love that. That's cool. They're going to love that. It's going to make them feel, kids love projects like that where they're actually creating things that are like from, their life, from things that they do. It's so great. Anybody else? I'm glad that you mentioned Adobe because I love the new layout. And I think it's going to be so easy to show the teachers. So I'm really excited about that too. Very excited. Another thing that I think we all think about too is just being able to have time to manage like everything on our plate and really to advocate for the things that we're doing. And it's very important that when we are trying to manage everything and we're trying to advocate that we have support from our administrators and the relationships that we have. And I think that, I go to school every year and one of the first things I do, I mean, I talk to my administrators throughout the summer too, but one of the first things I do is just to ask, how they're doing and what's new and getting that like feeling of our culture and the things that are going on within our own school buildings. And there's nothing more important than having those relationships because they're the ones that are going to be able to support us and advocate for us and not just advocate, at the beginning of the year, but throughout the year and really have that support. So I think that it would be helpful to hear, some of your ideas and how you do that too.
So if you're able to have a social media either for your school, I'm lucky I get to have a Facebook and Instagram for my library, but also have a personal Instagram that's all just for librarians. But I think just promoting what you're doing, and a lot of times, the library is kind of the last place they come to do observations. So I think it's because I put it out there all the time what we're doing. And I think that just helps open conversations with your admin, or they can see, oh my gosh, you did podcasts with fifth grade, or whatever. I think it just really communicating however you want to choose to do that. I do it through social media. So they know what's going on in your library and all the cool things. It's not just a place to come read books anymore. So much other things you can do too. So promoting your library in general.
And it's such an easy way for them to see it, like they can see those little glimpses and it's an important story to share.
Absolutely. I had a new principal one year, and just this principal never came in the library. It was very, very infrequent, but he was on Twitter. And I made sure to post, something going on every day in the library because he always saw it. He liked it. But something I'm working with on librarians right now in my districts, I've had a few reach out already. We've been in school since the beginning of August. And I see this a lot with librarians who have a flexible schedule because a lot of times administrators don't understand that, okay, it's flexible, but that doesn't mean like we don't have plans. We're not just sitting here waiting to be handed things to do. And, so you end up covering the music teacher who's only there every other week. And, she has a class of 60 and you've been asked to kind of do something with these 60 kids every other week. And, what do you do and how do you have those conversations? And I think first it's important to like thought partner with a mentor or someone else in your district first to kind of get your talking points and whatnot together. Always kind of run this conversation by someone else, because you don't want to have kind of a difficult conversation with your administrator when you're hot, because it's not going to go well. And then back to Shannon's point, just building those relationships with your administrators. It takes time, but it's something to prioritize and work at. They need to see that you're a go-getter, that you're a leader, that you're solution oriented. We go to them for help, but we bring what could work, an option A and option B for them to consider. And then I just had a librarian last week where we had to take her schedule and just map it out in Excel, all of her classes, all the times of the classes, the times when she's pulled into meetings. And then we made a list of all the other things she has to do. Shelve, check in books, just the most basic things that are part of our jobs. And it's like, okay, then we had to look at what she'd been assigned and scheduled to do, and then all the other things on her plate, and kind of create some talking points to go to her administrator and be like, I can't do everything this year. So anyway, it's you have to be creative, but a good calm approach, good solution oriented approach goes a long way.
I like the making the list and talking points. It's a great idea.
What Lindsay shares reminds me of, I think there's just a lot of invisible work that happens. And when I say that it's behind the scenes that nobody knows. 2 years ago, we created a new evaluation instrument for librarians that was more in line with the work that they do. And so what we essentially kind of did was we took a teacher evaluation that we have in our district, but we took out the parts that didn't work and put in things that addressed like the administrative side of being a librarian and that kind of thing. To Lindsay's point too, though, so first of all, that also just like opened a lot of eyes to like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize a librarian could do this, or I didn't know a librarian was doing that sort of thing. But also to Lindsay's point, I think that we can't as professionals also we can't wait for our principal to come in. I said, what can we do to be intentional in inviting them to come when there's a program, or I've got this class, I want you to see them do this, XYZ. I also think too, scheduling conversations, and I say meetings, but to just kind of give updates. It doesn't, I don't know what that schedule could look like. It could be once a month, it could be once a 6 weeks, but how are we demonstrating impact? And so when I say that, I definitely am not telling a librarian to just show a bunch of numbers. If you're going to show me circulation data, like, so what? A principal, that doesn't translate for principals. And so what is the impact of that? And what are the possible things that are happening? So we have to also leverage the student voice. And so when we have a program, I don't care how small it is, how big it is, like, how can we like have kids like we usually have like, we call it hot dot meter. So we'll say, what did you think of today's program? And it's like, put a sticky in, I loved it. It was okay. Not my thing. Nothing negative, but just to kind of get a pulse. And so when we have those things and we incorporate our students' voice, it just goes a long way. And it shows that the library is, not only is it the biggest classroom, but there are things happening in that classroom that you should take note of.
And Becky, you kind of mentioned, I had a little teacher trick that I still use as a librarian, but anytime something's cool is happening, I will text the principal and be like, hey, you should come down here and look at this. So they will come do their observation whenever something awesome is happening, which is all the time. But anyways, just a little tricked way to get them to come, even as a classroom teacher or the librarian, in to see those projects that you're doing. And I think too, Lindsay mentioned, I think I was new here last year and I really had to bust my butt to do some side quests. And I just got 3 or 4 in, but it showed the example of like, this is what I want. It was amazing. She, impressed. So let's do more of that. So this year we were able to work that into our schedule. So sometimes, like Lindsay said, it's just proving, showing your ideas, kind of busting your butt for a little bit, and then figuring out how it can be more manageable.
Just to add on to what you all are saying, I'm kind of where you were, Crystal. last year where I'm new into this campus, but he knew of me. Well, we did work together many moons ago, but he knew of me because of my social media. He saw everything, all the services that I provide, the opportunities, the experiences for my kiddos. So he knew coming in what I could do. But right from the get-go, I had a sit down with him and I said, "Hey, these are my goals." And so we had that conversation. This is what, I envision the library. These are the type of programs that I want to bring in this year. These are the types of opportunities I want to provide to our kids here. So just having open, honest conversations with your short-term goals, your long-term goals with your admin goes a long way, and they can see the value that you bring.
Definitely. Such lucky kids and administrators to work with all of you. I mean, that's just hands down one of the most important things for our successes. And on the same line, like we could probably say that too, with all the things that are happening with challenging times, like that's where it really comes into play as well, is having those really strong connections and relationships, not only with your administrators, but every stakeholder within your building. And when we're talking about challenging times and we're thinking about maybe things that are happening in our library or school or in our county or our state, that really has been affecting us as librarians and educators. And so, what reminders can we just share with everybody just to encourage and support and give advice on those kind of challenges too?
I'd like to start with that because I've been doing a lot of that.
Yes.
It's really been a little tough in Texas. Not only just with implementing legislation, but librarians were deliberately and intentionally denied raises. Not because we're teachers. We are teachers. We know we're teachers, but it was more about just because of all the books in the library, and that was like a punishment thing, which is terribly disrespectful. But even beyond that, there's also just budget cuts because our state isn't funding as they should be. So that said, though, when I had this same sort of like conversation with our librarians, because it's very just defeating, it's definitely not motivating, and with all just what's happening, it's just kind of had a cloud over us. One of the things I shared with them after just acknowledging that feeling, because I feel it too. I didn't get a raise either, so um, I just reminded them that one of the things that we need to remember is that all that's happening right now in our world, like I really truly believe that this is going to be viewed as historical times, and we are going to be the people that they're going to remember because we were holding the line or doing our best in terms of trying to like provide access and promote book access and intellectual freedom and all that. And then also reminding them too that um, we can't control what's going out in the greater world, but what we can control is what's happening in our small circle of influence. And that is in our class, in our library, the largest classroom in a school, right? And so how do we leverage each micro interaction, that one-on-one time with a student or a teacher, to make their life easier, to remind them that reading can be a joyful experience, that having a wellness sense area in your library could be kind of a respite. And that also said to reminding each individual to be sure to take care of yourselves. If we don't take care of ourselves, we can take care of no one. And so this whole thing of like, I'm going to work till, I'm going to get up at 6 and work till 6. And like that's not good for anyone. So we have to learn when to take a step away and maybe lean on somebody else. And take turns to allow people to lean on what lead the one that somebody leans on too. So
Thank you, Becky.
I was just gonna say to kind of trauma bond with some of the other librarians. Follow them on social media, or if they're, you're lucky enough to have them in your district or state, or you've met them through other organizations. But I think just trauma bonding kind of helps you. I know my library assistant and I will just look at each other and we have our inside jokes and things. So sometimes, sometimes that helps.
It does.
Yeah, Texas is not cute right now. The South in general is kind of like not cute right now. I like to remind myself that it is not the people directly in charge of me that are making these decisions. unfortunately, people that are making decisions, they will never feel the impacts like we are. But I have to remember that, my teachers trust me and my principal trusts me and my superintendent trusts librarians and our board, like our school board, we have to turn our book lists in to get them approved for purchase, but they didn't ask for this either. They trust us. So keeping that in mind is kind of nice. And then honestly, I'm really just honest with the students, when they're asking when we're going to get new books, I just kind of explain, and having those conversations is kind of helpful too, that they, understand that we would love to have new books every day, but like Becky said, our funding is being challenged, and our ability to buy books as we see fit, and the ones that we see fit are being challenged. But then just taking those moments to be present with the kids, because that's why we're doing it. Like maybe we can't get a new book, but I can find a book on the shelf that they haven't read yet, and we can talk about it, and they're still getting excited about books, and we're still being able to provide the services that we can and the things that we can. But yeah, and chocolate also helps.
Sure
So
does.
high recommend.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there's always going to be hard things we're navigating. It really feels especially hard right now with what legislators are doing and just kind of the climate in general. But at the end of the day, like, they can't stop me from creating this wonderful community space for our school where, all the kids feel welcome and seen, and, this is their space to come. And, this is something, that I want them to look forward to as part of their school day. And as a librarian, kind of, we're in a unique position to watch kids grow and develop, over the course of time that they're with us in our school building. And that's really cool. I always love to watch a 6th grader turn into an 8th grader. It was a fascinating thing. And, over the years, when they look back at that particular time in their life, they're going to remember the people that made them feel welcome and supported. Like, my administrative assistant right now was a student of mine back in 2008. So, they don't forget you.
I know, isn't that true? And I think that that's something that, we're here because of the kids, and we're here because of the teachers that we serve and our families that we serve. And I think that we're so lucky to be just also part of this great community that we have too. With all of us as librarians, like, I always think, like, I'm so lucky to be a librarian because of that. And so I really encourage people to, lean on the people around you. Relationships and advocacy is so important. And also just remember to reach out and to any of these wonderful librarians, but also to others too that we have in our community. And so I'm so grateful for all of you. I feel so inspired. I took notes, but my heart is full. And so I'm really happy that we were all able to share. And I just want to, before we wrap up, just share a few Future Ready Librarian resources that will be helpful too if you're looking for just great information and more resources too. I wanted to put up the bit.ly one more time. I know that it's in the chat just in case you need that. And this webinar is part of our webinar series, and we're excited because we actually have 2 webinars coming up yet in this year. We have one in September that is around AI and just supporting that critical thinking and research in our libraries. And very excited because my colleague Adam File, and we also have a couple other librarians that are going to be on. It's going to be a really wonderful conversation. And then we have our annual App Smash. And so pretty soon we'll put out the call for that. And so look for that, because we always have 25 just amazing librarians sharing also cool tools that we use. So I love that one. I wanted to share one of my favorite sites when we were talking about resources. The Achievery is one that always comes to my mind, and this is one that is from AT&T. It is free for everyone, so free for us as teachers, as librarians, also for our families. It's great to share. We have our open house this week, and our teachers will be sharing this because it's just such a amazing resource filled with so many collaborators that they work with, including like Common Sense Media, Girls Who Code, Code.org, and it's focused around all different subjects. But also, what they have are these new courses, and we got to see it last week from the creators, and it's really neat to be able to see how they are not only creating courses, but they're even aligned to our state standards now. And so I love that too. But you can sign up at this link here. And like I said, it's free for everyone. The Future Ready Librarian Hub is where you can find lots of things, not only the framework, but also the conversation starter and so many things that are helpful as we advocate for us and become more future ready from our library. We're excited because we're updating the framework this year. It comes out at AASL, and so we have been busy working on that and just really excited to share what we have added to that one too. We also are recording right now season 11 of the Future Ready Librarian podcast, Leading from the Library. And I have been recording, I've had amazing guests on. I can't wait to have even more on. And this joins other podcasts that we have for Future Ready Schools, so you can check those out. Adam and Carl have one, and Tom Murray has one too. And then if you want to be a guest, I would love to have you. You can find the link here if you have something to share, and seriously, anything that you guys share will be amazing. And so I would love to have you on there. If you're looking to bring some PD to your school, we also offer these free EdTech Fusion virtual workshops. You can find out more at the link below, and these are led by Tom and Adam and myself. And then, of course, don't forget to join the Future Ready Librarian Facebook group. I learn something new every day, and it's a place to go, again, for support and ideas and just those friendships that we have as librarians. And so you can check that out too, and all the other places that you can connect with Future Ready. But we're really grateful for all of you joining us. We're so thankful for Fall Content again for supporting our Future Ready Librarians program. And I'm excited just to see what everybody does this year. And I'm excited for my own year at school, but also I love thinking about all the great things going on and things you all shared. I took so many notes, everybody. So I can't wait now to, I'm actually gonna get off the phone and like do some updates to, I have ideas swirling in my head. So I know that everybody else does too. And I can't wait to see everybody in September and some of you at AASL. And so have a great rest of your week. And thank you, friends, for joining me today. It was great. Thank you.